the ability. It means the hardware, right? Technology is like the structures. Like a bridge is technology. Your phone is technology.
All right, Euclidia. Let me ask you this. Uh,
Yep.
you know about the law of conservation of momentum, right?
Yep.
And you guys use that as a way of explaining why a helicopter, when it's on the Earth, right, goes straight up in the air, right? Say it's at like a
Yep.
500 mile per hour latitude, like the Earth is spinning at 500 miles per hour at that latitude. The
Yep.
helicopter goes up in the air, right? Because it was on the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
it conserves that momentum, so it's automatically moving with the rotation of the Earth at 500 miles an hour, right?
Yep.
Right. So because the helicopter was on the Earth, it retains the speed of that latitude that it was at, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you understand that. Now, let's say it's a plane, same thing, right? So the plane would retain the 500 miles per hour eastward rotation, even if it's headed south, right? So it would be going sideways 500 miles an hour when it takes off, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's aimed south. So it's going sideways automatically 500 miles per hour in perfect unison with the Earth. Like it would have, like, say it turned around and landed, right? It would have to be in complete and perfect unison with the eastward rotation, which it would be at 500 miles an hour, right? There'd be no problem, right? But it'd have to be a one-to-one relationship because we know that all pilots treat the Earth as stationary and level, right? So it works out, right? So if it's at a 500 mile per hour latitude and it lands right there, then it's automatically, well, we're not going to get into the idea that it might actually not be in sync at that point, but it would have to be in perfect sync, right, for the pilot to treat the Earth as stationary. Agreed?
Well, yeah. So the velocity of the Earth spinning, right? So this is like a common misconception is that it's a one direction like velocity. So if I take off facing west, um, then I should lose my velocity that's been, or I should lose the momentum that's been imparted upon me. But I,
Sure,
this is
of
why they say
course.
stationary. So stationary is in the sense that since everything is in the same inertial reference frame, I don't have to consider anything to be or the Earth to be moving. I don't have to consider anything to be moving because everything's
Well,
maintaining
it's
that
not
momentum.
though. But okay, but hold on a sec. Let me walk through this with you. You can go on your diatribe about all
Yep.
that in a
Yep.
minute. I'm drawing out an example for you, right? So there's two reference frames. We have an inertial and a non-inertial reference frame, and we're talking about planes, helicopters, bullets, anything like that. That's why there's a Coriolis effect seen, and it looks like it's curved from a third person's perspective out in space or on the ground. It would be even if in the reference frame of the pilot or the bullet, it's going straight, but because the Earth is spinning separately, it would look like it's curved when it goes to a different latitude that's at either higher or lower tangential velocity. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Earth is spinning separately from anything, a projectile, a plane, a helicopter, anything. But you can say the conserved momentum at that 500 mile per hour latitude because the helicopter was on the Earth. It retains that speed. But once it's in the air, right, it's in a separate reference frame. It's a non inertial compared to an inertial. You're not confused about that, are you?
No. So
Okay,
so
so
the
we have
reason
both. Now
why.
you don't need to start. You don't need to start. Right. I'm
Yeah.
just going to continue here and draw these out for you. You agreed. The only reason that the helicopter is spinning in the eastward rotation, right, is because it was on the Earth. Not because when it gets in the air, it's in the same reference frame, because it's in a separate reference frame, just like a bullet, just like any projectile. That's why they say they have to adjust for a Coriolis effect or Coriolis displacement when they're shooting a rifle or something like that. It's the same thing, right? We agree on that,
I,
right?
I just can I say one thing real quick?
Go ahead.
All right. So the reason why there is a Coriolis or like a deflection in a bullet over, yeah, it's because it's over a distance, right? So the speed it changes over that distance, which causes there to be an apparent deflection. That's why you need super long distances to get any sort of like apparent deflection in the bullet. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. But regardless, it's moving separately from the Earth, and the reason that that you would have to make any of those adjustments is because the Earth is moving separately from the bullet or plane or helicopter or anything else. And just like I said, we can say, and let you beg the question, with a 500 mile per hour eastward rotation of a helicopter or plane or whatever it is, a balloon, right? It stays in that spot because it was already on the Earth and it retained that conserved momentum. And you're right. If it went west, it would lose that conserved momentum and it wouldn't be in the same reference frame, right? But I'm talking about now is if it goes to the equator where it's landing in a city that's moving 1,000 miles per hour eastward, right? Now it needs to be in a one-to-one relationship for the pilot to treat the Earth as stationary still, right? It needs to be in a perfect one-to-one relationship. It can't be 1,005 miles an hour. It can't be 995 miles an hour. It needs to be in a perfect one-to-one relationship so that the pilot doesn't need to be trained to deal with a moving runway the way an aircraft carrier pilot is trained specially to move with a slightly drifting runway, right? So how is it that the conserved momentum is 500 miles per hour where it takes off from, but now it needs to be moving 1,000 miles an hour perfectly in unison at the city that it's landing in? Where does it get the 500 miles per hour extra?
well,
How does it double its speed sideways? What is the mechanism that causes the plane to be accelerated twice as fast sideways? What's the mechanism?
so this goes back to the point where there's no adding of velocities, right? You need to get that concept out of your head. There's no adding of velocity. So if I take off from the
What's
runway,
1,000 minus 500?
yeah. So this is
Okay,
what
so
I
you
mean.
need 500.
No, you need to get this concept of like adding velocities off
Well,
of
you tell me a good
the
reason
Earth.
to get tell me a good reason to get rid of it because you didn't name the mechanism that causes the plane to accelerate twice as fast sideways. You
All
need
right,
to do that.
so if the ground is stationary that I'm on, and I take off, and I go Mach 5 for 100 kilometers, and I turn around, can I find the runway and not have it fly off of course for me if I did this Mach 5 journey and then came around?
If it's stationary,
Yes.
if it's stationary, that's fine. Yeah, if it's stationary,
All
is no
right.
problem.
Yeah.
That's how
So
pilots are trained to treat it. That's how they always
yeah.
treat it.
So for all
That's
intents
how it
and
would have to
purposes,
be, unless there's something that actually makes sense here. Go ahead.
well, yeah. For all intents and purposes, the ground is stationary when you're flying a plane,
Oh,
right?
there we go. There we go. Good.
Wait, hold on,
Yep,
wait.
we agree.
Somebody else say, wait, hold on, wait, don't butt in. Let me go back and forth with this guy because he's already caught, and I realize that. Okay.
I'm not caught.
What do
I
you
already
mean?
know.
For all intents and purposes? What do you mean by that?
The fact that in order to fly a plane, I don't need to worry about Coriolis.
Well, you would if it was actually spinning, though.
Would I?
Yeah, because that's what Coriolis is, bro. It's moving
Like I
separately
said,
from a projectile, a plane, a helicopter. There's an inertial and a non-inertial reference frame. You agreed on all this.
but I'm conserving the momentum that was imparted upon me when I first took
500
off.
miles per hour. That's all you got.
Yeah, and then you just
Where do you get the extra
randomly
500?
subtract
Where do you
and
get the
add
1,000?
velocities to your whim.
What?
Because then you just this is what I mean. You need to get the concept of adding and subtracting these velocities out of your head, right?
Why?
Well,
Why?
you need to because otherwise it doesn't work and it destroys your globe. That's why you think I need to, but you can't
Yep.
come up with a 500 miles per hour to make it perfectly in sync in the land and to land in a city that's moving 1,000 miles an hour. Not the 500 of the conserved momentum he had. He needs an extra 500. He needs to be going twice as fast sideways. What's the mechanism that accelerates the plane perfectly
All right. So
in
do I?
sync with the
So do I
rotation?
So what's the
lose?
mechanism? Answer
Right.
that. Answer that.
What's the
This is
mechanism?
retarded. Do I lose my
Not
conserved
retarded.
momentum when I take off?
500 miles per hour is the only conserved momentum you have. You don't have 1,000. Where's the extra 500 come
Is
from?
it like a fuel tank? If I turn around, I'll start losing my conserved momentum?
Why are you strawmanning it? I asked you where the 500 mile per hour extra comes from. What's the mechanism that accelerates the plane sideways a perfect extra 500 miles an hour so it can assume that the runway it's landing on, which is 1,000 miles per hour, 500 more than where it started from? How are you getting the extra 500? What's the mechanism? And don't call it
Because the
stupid
runway,
because you don't have an answer. Why are you calling
the
it stupid
runway.
when you must feel stupid for not having an answer?
Can I
No,
just
you.
ask a question?
No,
His
wait,
only
let him
answer was
answer.
his only
Let
answer.
him answer.
New perspective. His answer earlier was we just treat it like it's flat and stationary.
Well, yeah, that's because it's
Yeah.
flat and stationary. But he thinks it's spinning, so he has to justify why it's spinning, and they're treating it as flat and stationary, and it needs to go twice as fast sideways. How's it doing that?
Yeah, just add and subtract and multiply velocities just to make it seem crazy. I don't get it.
No,
If I'm
what do you mean? Just to make it seem crazy? I'm talking about your model. Your model says it's 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. It says it retains the momentum from where it took off from. It only retained 500 miles per hour. It needs 1,000 miles an hour eastward tangential velocity to land on a surface that it's treating as perfectly stationary. Can you answer that? It's your
so if you
model.
could, because you're just making this straw man where you don't have to.
It's not a straw man. It's your
It is a
model.
straw man
What
because you're saying that.
what did I do wrong?
Okay, Trig,
Yeah,
stop,
right.
stop,
Yeah,
guys,
no,
stop,
What did I
guys.
do wrong?
Okay, stop, guys.
T-Dub, shut up.
Stop.
All right.
Trig
So
is saying that it's not required, and you were asking what's the mechanism for that, and he still hasn't answered that.
yeah, so we
Yeah,
both
he
agree
doesn't
that it's
have an
not
answer because he
required.
says I'm
Okay,
straw manning it.
you are straw
How
manning
am I
it
straw manning it? Why? Because you're saying it's not 1,000 at the equator?
because you're implying that you can just subtract and add these velocities at whim for some reason, like it should matter in any way.
No, I'm saying you can't. And the only reason that he
What do
doesn't
you mean?
have
Your
to
whole
is because it's
argument is that
actually my
your whole
argument is it's
relies on the
stationary,
fact
bro.
that you.
My
Yeah, if you
argument is it's
maintain the
stationary. The only reason he'd be able to land on a surface that's moving twice as fast as where he took off from, is if you had a
twice as
mechanism,
fast,
or
it's just
if
adding and
if he just
multiplying and
he takes off and lands just like he treats it, then it's stationary. There's no problem. There's no conspiracy. Pilots are taught to treat it as stationary. That's just the way it has to be then. Unless you can come up with a mechanism that accelerates the plane twice as fast sideways by the time it gets to the place where it's 1,000 miles an hour rather than 500, like your model says.
just
It's a
add and
straw man.
subtract
It's just your model.
velocity. I don't know. It is a straw
You
man
just
because
add. You're just going to add 500 without a mechanism.
Yeah,
How are
add
you
and
adding
subtract.
500?
What do you mean adding 500?
Where did you get the 500? You need 1,000.
Added.
Wait,
Just
the
something
500 is all you
constant.
have. You need an extra 500, bro. Do you not even get 500 plus 500 equals 1,000?
He thinks it's a gas
Huh?
tank. It's like, oh, I'm running out of my 500 mile per hour Coriolis.
Has nothing to do with the gas tank. What are you talking about? Why are you like?
Trig.
Are you tactically straw manning this, or do you really not understand what I'm saying?
You are the original.
How does it keep up, mate? How does it keep? He's just asking you how it keeps up. How does it keep up when there's a change?
Keep up. It's just going back to this Coriolis fuel tank thing. Keep up. Oh, it's running out
Fuel
of
tank?
Coriolis.
What are you? Are you stupid? Why does this have anything to do with the fuel tank?
Isn't the momentum always conserved though? So like
Yeah,
you always
500.
go.
That's all it gets.
Yeah, but
It only gets 500. It doesn't get 1,000. It only has 500. It needs twice as fast sideways momentum. Where's the extra 500 come from? Yeah, that's the answer. No one. There is no 500. Bro.
Yeah.
You're saying there is a change, right? You're saying you agree there is a change, right?
Twice as fast. No, I'm agreeing that there is no change. I'm saying there is no change.
These other guys. These other guys. Do they agree that there's a change?
Their model says it's 1,000 rather than 500. Is he denying that? Are you denying that the equator runway would be 1,000 miles an hour, but the plane only had 500 miles per hour from where it took off from? Are you denying that, according to your model?
So Coriolis increases over distance, dude. So if you're flying a transatlantic flight, you will have to count for Coriolis.
Oh, okay. So that's what I'm saying. It's 1,000 miles an hour compared to 500. Where's the extra 500 come from? What's the mechanism that makes it go twice as fast sideways without the pilot even worrying about it?
Twice as fast sideways.
Just 500 compared to 1,000. Why is that like hard? You realize 500 plus 500 is 1,000, right? Can we get that straight? Obviously, it needs 1,000. It's missing 500. Where's the extra 500 come from?
See, more straw man where it is like just adding.
Not a straw man. It's just 1,000 minus 500 equals 500. 500 plus 500 equals 1,000. There's no straw man there. It's just simple math.
Trig, do you agree that there is a change?
A change in velocity along as you increase
tangential velocity of the runway compared to where it took off from. there's a 500 mile per hour difference of the runway it needs to land on compared to the runway it took off from. Do you
Is
get
that
that?
a straw man? Is
there?
that a
If I'm
straw
on the
man, Trig?
Yes, it is. 'Cause
Trig,
he's talking
Trig, just
about
answer this.
Why?
Is that a
it is
straw
a
man?
straw man. Yeah.
Why
Is
is it a
that
straw
a
man?
straw man?
Explain why it's a straw man with specificity, not anything about fuel tanks and something that like doesn't have anything to do with 500 plus 500 equals 1,000.
Because I never lost my 1,000 mile per hour momentum, right? So me
Wait,
and the
you only
runway
had
are keeping the
500.
same
You only
speed.
took off with 500.
Only had 500. More fuel
Wait,
tanks,
it only has
nonsense.
500. What do you mean? I'm not
Only
talking about
has
fuel tank. I'm
500.
talking about the conserved momentum from the latitude it took off from, right? You get to the smaller circles leading up to the North Pole where they say it's 0 miles an hour, and then those circles, just like a racetrack, bro. The person
We're
on the
getting
outside has to
him
start
to
ahead,
agree with.
right? With the
Does he
racetrack, the person
agree
on
or
the
disagree
outside,
with that?
he has further to
I
go,
mean,
right? So he has
it's
to
not
run
like
faster around the outside. Do you not even
it's
get
not like
this?
a bullet. You're applying a constant force over your entire journey, right?
Okay, so the pilot is trained to account for this. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, it'll just happen naturally as you keep on applying
Oh,
force.
naturally. So what are you saying is
Yeah.
this natural mechanism? Naturally, what do you mean
The
naturally?
fact that you have
How is
jet
it
engines that wing.
naturally? How is it naturally accelerated twice as fast sideways? Explain that with specificity.
Well, because over your whole journey, as you're
Yeah.
traveling with its engines, you have lift. Like I
Yeah.
don't get it.
So if it's the engines, then it would be the pilot that would be trained to make up that
Pilot doesn't
difference. Is that what
control
you're
the
saying?
engines ever. A pilot doesn't control the engines ever.
Also, the engines are programmed to do this extra acceleration sideways to be in perfect unison with the 1,000 mile an hour runway.
They just
The
do
engines?
it naturally. It's not something that's even
The
considered.
engines have a natural acceleration to go twice as fast? Where's this? Wait, can you show me
There
proof
is
of
no
that? Where's the
extra
engine?
accelerations.
Where
It's
does
just
the engine get a natural acceleration to make the
the
plane in
fact
sync
that
with
it's
the Earth?
providing thrust.
Okay,
They just
so it could go the
maintain
opposite
speed.
direction, right? So if it
They
goes
just
against the
maintain the
spin, like
speed.
say it goes west southwest, right? It's going out against the spin, but still ending up at the equator where it needs 1,000 miles an hour eastward tangential velocity. Not only would it be losing its original conserved momentum by going west, but now it's going
Losing
west
again,
southwest.
thinking his Coriolis fuel tank is running low.
It's not about Coriolis fuel tank. I don't know where you get that concept or that term, but it just is just ridiculous to even say that. It's nothing to do with
Yeah,
a fuel
because you're
tank.
like, oh, I'm gaining my Coriolis effect from taking off from this place. It's just
No, it's just your model, bro. I'm just explaining your model. It says 1,000 at the equator. The plane would have to be moving eastward tangentially in perfect unison with that 1,000 miles an hour equator, according to your model. And it only had the original conserved momentum of 500. Now it's going west southwest. It's against the spin. And you're saying the engines are making the plane go backwards and sideways to be in perfect sync with the 1,000 miles an hour runway? What do we mean? The engines are making the plane go forward, eastward, or westward, west southwest, in fact, towards the equator. Now it needs to be going 1,000 miles an hour in perfect unison, but it only had the original conserved momentum. Even if I let you beg the question and say it never lost any of that conserved momentum, but it only has 500. How does it have 1,000 to be able to be in sync with the Earth that it's landing on? How's it? And not only that,
because you have
if,
engines. You have engines.
okay, so engines. Okay, so is that really a good enough answer for you? Does that make sense? Are you
Is it
naming
a
the
good enough
mechanism?
answer for you?
No, it couldn't be. Because what does the
Why?
engines have to do with it? Because the engines are making the plane go west southwest, not eastward. The engines would have to make the plane go twice as fast sideways eastward, backwards and sideways if it's going west southwest. How is the engine programmed to do that? You think the engine
Because
has some kind of
you're
like
you're
what are
aiming.
you talking about? Does that make sense? No.
The computer on the plane is aiming for a place on
The computer. Oh, now you're
Hold
going to
on.
the computer.
Stop. Hold on. Let me explain for like 3 seconds. All right. So you're aiming for a point on a map that's projected on a sphere, by the way. Just to let you know. That's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
and as
could
you go over
think of
that
it like
entire
that.
journey, as you go over that entire journey, it's not like a bullet where you're not applying any more force over the journey, right? So if I fire a bullet and
No,
exit
it's
the rifle
different, but
barrel,
it's in a separate reference frame, which we already agreed on. So it's not moving in sync with the Earth automatically.
yeah, so the plane has the capability to change its direction and velocity and maintain.
Absolutely, yep. It goes wherever it
Unlike
wants.
a
West
bullet.
southwest is where it's going now. It's aiming
That's why
the
bullets
engines,
shoot
the computer, all of it. Don't worry about bullets. We're talking about the plane that's not going to be in unison with the Earth that it's landing on, which causes accidents. So the only way a pilot can treat the Earth as stationary is if it's stationary, because it's not in perfect unison with this one-to-one relationship with the Earth, bro. It can't work any other way. It cannot. It proves that we're not moving.
If it
Because
was a
otherwise,
bullet, sure.
the pilot would not
If
be
it was a
able to
bullet.
treat it as stationary. No,
If
it
it
needs
was
an
a
extra
bullet.
500 miles an hour. You don't have the mechanism, bro.
Extra Coriolis fuel tank.
This
again.
proves you're not on a ball. This proves you're not on a spinning
Coriolis
ball.
fuel tank
You need
again.
twice as fast. You need to be moving twice as fast in perfect unison. And not only that, even if your magic engines or your computer or even your pilot is made aware of this problem, right? Even if that were the case, how is he going to continue to make the plane move sideways in the perfect one-to-one relationship as he's landing and coming to a stop in a perpendicular direction?
Yeah. So this is
At
again
what point does the
applying it.
what point does he stop accelerating the plane sideways to be in perfect unison with the eastward tangential velocity so that he can come to a stop in a perpendicular direction?
You're applying
That's not
it
even
to,
possible,
but
even
you're
if
applying
everything
it to
you
a
hope is there was
projectile.
there.
You're
But you don't
applying-
even have the mechanism to begin
You're
with. You don't
applying
even
it
have the
to a
mechanism
projectile.
that says the plane's going to be going twice as fast sideways to be in perfect unison. You don't
You're
even get
applying
that.
it to
But
a
even if you did get
projectile.
that, you still can't land the
He
plane.
thinks he's winning.
You
You're
still
applying
couldn't
it to
even
a
land.
projectile. You're applying it to a projectile that's no longer like applying any force to it, right? Engine or they have engines
What?
and wings. Yeah. If
Okay.
this is a bullet, then true.
So?
But it's not a bullet.
What do you mean? You're going back to like, oh, because it has engines, it makes it perfect. Do you really think that makes sense? Name the mechanism, the actual mechanism, the scientific reason that we know the pilot doesn't need to worry about the spin that's twice as fast as where he took off from. What's the mechanism?
Engines and wings.
Oh, so you're saying the pilot is going to do it? The engines and the wings do it all on their own? They're just like programmed to do this? Is that your theory?
They're not even programmed to do it.
Oh, okay. So then how does it happen?
It is the natural
Explain it.
effect.
Make sense
Hold
of it.
on.
Don't just
Yes,
try.
I
Like,
will.
don't just cling on to something that you hope makes sense. Actually make
Okay.
sense of it, okay?
New perspective.
Yeah, how
Do
does it
you
work? What's the
understand
mechanism?
that when the Earth rotates, also the air in the Earth also rotates with the
Okay.
Earth?
So you got air, right? So you're saying it's a wind that pushes the plane
If you go
sideways? Is that what you're
straight,
saying?
if you go straight in a straight line, that corresponds with the
Yeah.
ground, you also go in a
Yeah.
straight line with the correspondent air above the ground. So you
Okay,
go
so the air is
straight
pushing the plane
either way.
sideways faster? Is your theory that the air is accelerating the plane twice as fast sideways? The
It
air?
doesn't accelerate. The plane
Oh,
accelerates
it would
whenever the
have
fuck
to.
it
We need
wants.
twice.
The air doesn't.
Wait, do you realize? Okay, wait. You just came into the conversation. Do you realize that the plane needs to be going twice as fast sideways, perfect, to be at 1,000 miles an hour rather than 500?
That would be.
Right? You realize
That would be if only the air moved and the plane moved relative to the ground and not
Well,
the air.
you've got the same
But
problem, dude.
everything,
You've got the same
everything goes
problem,
the same
right?
speed.
if the air
Got the same problem
moves
because
the plane,
air's
right?
moving.
And air pushing the
moving.
plane, and air push. Can we agree on this? Air pushing the plane is called a wind, right? Air pushing the
Yeah.
plane. Wind's going all directions. So air doesn't push the plane in one direction. It pushes the plane in all directions. So that doesn't work for you. Air is not an answer.
No, and you can consider the air to be also like it's another aircraft, right? It's also moving around and changing directions and stuff. Like New Perspective saying, winds, right? So a north-south wind would have to do the same as your airplane. It's not going to save you.
The wind pushing that plane is not an answer. You want it to be. You want to think of it like that. You want to say prevailing winds or overall or pretty much.
I mean,
the
I know you guys are
the
generally
atmosphere
slow,
isn't even
but
that
god
atmosphere. That hold on, wait. Trying to strawman and try to insult me at this point makes you look worse than you already do.
I mean,
because you don't have an answer. You're
it's
saying
common
air does
sense.
it,
Even with
and
flat
it's not
Earth,
a wind.
it works.
Wait, so you're saying the air accelerates the plane twice as fast sideways? Is that your answer? You're calling me stupid?
No. The plane doesn't
Okay, what's your answer?
accelerate infinitely fast.
I didn't say infinitely fast. Why are you strawmanning me? We
Yeah,
know
you're saying
that the
that
globe
if it
says
accelerates during
it.
its
Wait, hold on. You don't understand the answer. You don't even understand the whole. You don't even understand the whole scenario. You're calling me stupid. You don't even understand what's being asked. How can you jump into a conversation and call someone stupid when you don't even understand the scenario that I'm talking about? It's 1,000 miles an hour. The globe says at the equator. The
yeah.
plane has to land on that as if it's stationary. That means it needs to be moving in perfect unison sideways with the Earth for it to treat it as stationary. It only had 500 miles per hour conserved momentum. Where's the extra 500 come from? So that's in perfect unison with 1,000 miles an hour at the equator when it only had 500 mile per hour conserved momentum to begin with. What's your mechanism that you're going to name to make you smart instead of stupid?
I've told you the Earth
What? The
around
air. Okay, so
the
wind.
Earth goes.
So wind
No,
pushes it.
wind is one thing and air is another thing. Stationary
Okay,
air
so then,
in the
okay, so
equator
would you say,
moves at 1,000 kilometers per hour,
right, so
1,000
then
miles an hour.
if the plane is accelerated by the air, how does the air do it without it being wind?
It's not accelerated.
It'd have to because it'd have to go twice as fast. It's 1,000 at the
Mm,
equator, but it only took
No,
off with 500 miles per hour conserved momentum. Now the plane
no.
needs to be going twice as fast sideways. Do you not even get that? You're
Maybe
calling me
it's the
stupid?
space. It's the
Huh?
space. The
Space?
space is moving.
what? None of it makes sense, bro. This debunks your globe. Stop calling flat earthers stupid when you're the
No.
one that's in the wrong.
I. Sheesh. It's hard to explain when you have another whole perspective of the world and you negate to listen.
No, I'm just talking about your
It's
model.
hard.
I'm talking about your model. It has
Yeah,
nothing to
in
do with my
my
perspective.
model, the Earth
Yeah.
around the equator, the ground moves at 1,000 miles per hour, and
Yeah.
then the air that's stationary above the line of the equator also moves at the same speed. And
Stationary.
when there's wind, it
Did
moves
you
Wait,
at
hear
wait a
a
minute.
yourself?
Wait a
different
minute.
speed.
Wait, did you say stationary?
Stationary relative to the ground, yes, it's
Right. So
stationary.
yeah. So when there's no wind, right? When there's
So
no
then
wind, that's
the
when it's.
plane
Hold on.
has
Wait.
to
Wait. Wait.
make
Just to
the
make sure,
effort. The
your
work,
model
it makes
says
the plane,
that
not
you're
the
right.
air.
Just to make sure, because your model says that when there's no wind, that's when the air is in perfect unison, right? When there's no wind, that's how you
Yeah.
know the air is in perfect. So you're saying the no wind is what accelerates the plane sideways twice as fast? The no wind?
What? No.
Yeah, because it's only in perfect unison when there's no wind. But the
I think you
plane that
might need to
flies
go
to the
See,
back to the
you,
equator,
you
start.
keep changing to wind
it needs to
when
go
there's
twice as
air.
fast sideways.
You might need to
It
go
needs to go
back to the
twice as fast
start of your
You
sideways.
keep
scenario,
skipping.
right? So just wait. New perspective. Where's your plane starting off from?
500 mile per hour conserved momentum at the latitude it took off from, where the circle is smaller than the equator. So it didn't have 1,000 miles an hour. It only has 500. But it's
Gonna,
flying to the
and it's
equator,
going to
west
go, and
southwest, right?
it's going to take off. It's going to take off and go south towards the equator.
Yeah, or even better, west southwest, right? So it's
I
going
mean,
against the spin, right? It's going against the spin, and it's going to the equator, right? West southwest is the best scenario because there's no answer to this. Even though there's no answer just south, but west southwest makes it even worse because now it's going against the spin, the supposed spin, and it needs an extra 500 miles an hour. What's the mechanism that pushes the plane faster sideways, twice as fast, right? To be in perfect unison with a 1,000 miles an hour runway. What's your mechanism? Not the air, because air pushing the plane is a wind, so it can't be the air. What pushes the plane backwards and sideways to be in perfect unison with a 1,000 mile an hour runway? What's your mechanism, globe earther?
There ain't no mechanism. There ain't no spin. You'll notice if you go against a rotation, you'll get to places a lot quicker. It'll be noticed.
Yeah, it debunks the globe emphatically, and these guys act like it's some kind of straw man. It's just their model that doesn't
I
work,
I
and
think maybe
it
I
doesn't
think
work.
Manufactotum might want to chime in here. Does he? Do you have an answer, Manufactotum,
Sorry.
or are you just hot micing?
Oh, hello?
Yeah. Did you have something
Hello?
to add to this conversation?
I was hot micing, sorry. I just
No,
kind
it's all
of
good.
got here. Is
It's
it
all
the
good.
airplane thing?
Yeah, it needs 1,000 miles an hour to land in perfect unison with the runway at the equator, where they say it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour. but it took off with only 500 mile per hour conserved momentum. It's headed west southwest against the spin. So it
Mhm.
needs to be going sideways, backwards, and sideways, faster, twice as fast as where it took off from. It only has conserved momentum because it was on the Earth, not because the air is pushing it with the Earth. And if the air is said to be pushing it with the Earth, it would be a wind. But we already know winds go in all directions, so that doesn't work. What's your answer?
Well, how fast is the air going where it took off, and how fast is it going where it's landing?
It doesn't matter about the air. We're talking about the plane.
I mean,
The
it kind
plane
of
was
matters.
at 500 mile per hour latitude where it took off from. It only had 500 miles per hour conserved momentum where it took off from. But now the
Right.
plane needs to be going twice as fast sideways
Yeah.
to be
No,
in
I
1,000 miles
understand.
an hour when it lands. What's the mechanism that makes the plane accelerate perfectly an extra 500 miles an hour? What's the
But
mechanism that makes
mhm.
the plane in perfect unison with a 1,000 mile an hour runway?
Yeah, I would say it's the winds.
No, winds go in all directions. That doesn't work.
At what speed in all directions? So planes have tailwinds, headwinds, right? Depends on which way the wind is going, but the winds aren't
Yeah,
going to
you have
be
to
like
one.
500 miles an hour.
You have to name the wind that makes it perfectly in sync with the Earth. What's that wind?
Well, that's just the rotation of the atmosphere in sync with the Earth.
Oh, that's the no wind. When it's in perfect sync, there's no wind, right? That's what the ballers say. There's no
No,
wind.
like on aggregate, it's in sync with the Earth, right? Within that aggregate, there's like fluid dynamics and such. There's turbulence and whatnot. But you don't
Yeah,
find winds that
so it's
are going
never in
at
perfect
1,000 miles
sync.
an hour.
So it's never in perfect sync, right? So
Right. But on
even if
aggregate,
somehow the air removing it, right, regardless of the pilot even knowing it, the plane has to be moving perfectly an extra 500 miles an hour, not 505, not 995. So your words, your estimation words like aggregate and overall or pretty much or any of these estimation words, that's going to scare a pilot that's thinking he can just treat the Earth as stationary. You can't have any estimation words. We're talking about precision landing. He has to be in a
I don't know
one-to-one
what you mean
relationship.
by estimation words, but
Yeah, aggregate.
so what's the fastest wind you've ever heard of?
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, because you're speaking like
I
the
you the
winds are
questions.
also
Where do you get
still,
the
and
extra
the Earth is
500 miles an
moving
hour?
right from
I
the
didn't say
wind.
that. So the winds are going in all directions. The winds blow in all directions on a flat
Right.
Earth.
But how fast are they going in all directions?
But you tell me. Is that predictable? Is that even a predictable thing? Is that something you can say is like something you can even guess at?
Well, we could talk
How would
about
you think
average
that that's
winds,
something that
right?
could be like? How would you even think that's something that could be like thought to be predictable?
You could talk about like average wind speeds, right? We can
I don't
talk
know. It
about
depends on the day.
headwinds and tailwinds.
Talking
Yeah.
about the day, you could
Sure.
have a day. You could have a day. You could have a day where winds go in all directions, all speeds. I mean, you got winds are not the answer. It has to be perfect. It has to be one thing that makes it perfect every time a pilot gets in the air.
What do you mean
What's the
perfect?
one thing that makes it perfect? Because it needs to be going an extra 500 miles an hour exactly to land on
Well,
1,000 miles an hour
no,
runway.
no, it doesn't. Not exactly, right?
Oh, it doesn't. No,
No,
it can just estimate that.
no,
Don't you
not
know that the
estimate.
wheels would break off? Don't you know the wheels would break off if it was just a
How
5 mile an hour difference?
how fast would it have to be drifting to the side for the wheels to snap off?
It doesn't matter.
It
One
does
mile an
matter
hour, two
because
miles
a
an hour.
plane, no,
Are
a
you saying
plane
that?
can
Are you
land with
saying that
winds.
pilots? Are you saying that planes land on moving surfaces?
What I'm saying is that a plane can land with winds that are coming from the side at 2 miles an hour. Nothing's going to happen, right? A plane can adjust for that.
Wait, are you saying that the? It's not about adjusting for that.
I'll say it
You're
again. What
gonna.
I'm saying
Are
is
you
that a
trying to
plane,
conflate the winds? Wait, hold on. You are the typical baller that thinks that the winds moving the plane is the same thing as the Earth moving separately from the plane. You think it's the same thing, don't you?
I'm not entirely
You
sure
do,
what
don't
you
you?
said,
Admit it.
but I think
Admit
yes.
it. You think adjusting for the winds is the same thing as adjusting for a moving Earth, right? Admit it. You think that.
I don't know what you mean by adjusting for a moving Earth.
Well, because the plane only had 500 miles per hour conserved momentum from where it took off, right? Now
Yes.
it needs to be moving in perfect unison with a runway that's 1,000 miles an hour. And there's no one reference frame here. It's two reference frames.
What are the two reference?
So the
frames?
Earth is moving independently of the plane eastward. You know that if it was a ball.
I don't know if I'd say that.
Well, you'd have to say that if you think your ball is a ball.
So
That's how your
plane
ball
is-
model works.
right. So the plane is using the air as its push, right? It's pushing
Yeah.
off
Sure.
the air, right?
Yeah.
And that air is moving with the Earth. So I don't
That's
know
what you say.
Call them two reference frame.
Right. So that's what you say, but it doesn't make it one reference frame, bro. The Coriolis effect
Yes,
says
I don't.
Yeah,
that
I
there
don't
would
know
be
if
a
you can
it's
have your
displacement.
Coriolis
frame
without
either.
two separate reference frames. Yeah, this destroys the ball Earth. It destroys it.
It destroys
really
it.
doesn't.
It destroys
No,
your
it
ball
doesn't
model.
destroy it because planes
It
fly
does.
on around on a globe. So
Liberals.
maybe you're just understanding it wrong. Maybe.
Oh, your
Like-
answer to this is
like I
planes
said-
fly on a globe, so it must be real. It must work because it's a
you
globe.
don't speak English, bro.
This
No,
this
the
comes
bottom
back
line
to
is
my
we don't have
earlier point
1,000
about
mile an
the
hour
air. Just wait. This comes back to my earlier point about the air just being like the aircraft. Where's it getting its extra momentum from?
You know what's even weirder? The USA tries to cover up every time they come out with like a new like world-breaking technology that will like change the way we use fuel in cars, or that shit gets like slapped with a secrecy label, and then we never know about it. We've had technology to like advance like fucking like way past what we are now.
I don't know.
Anyway,
if
they
that
don't
has
have an
anything
answer
to
for
do-
this. No one's come up with an answer. Saying it's the air doesn't work
It-
because that would be a wind.
Yeah.
We know winds go in all directions, and there's no perfect air making it
What do you
go
mean the
twice
air
as
doesn't
fast
work?
sideways. Because it would have to be a wind pushing the plane twice as fast sideways.
Not only in the horizontal, but the vertical as well.
Yeah,
I wanna
exactly.
point
That
as
too.
well.
Because as soon as a plane goes up in the air high enough, it's got to move faster automatically just to be in sync with the Earth below it, right? Because it's a bigger circle than the ground, right? The ground has a smaller circle, and you get a bigger circle when it goes up in the air. So there's no mechanism to make the plane go faster when it gets higher up, and there's no mechanism to make it go twice as fast when it gets to a runway that's 1,000 miles an hour compared to where it was taking off from it, only 500 miles per hour. Conserve momentum. There has to be a perfect mechanism, not just a thought about air being in sync or any of that. You can't just like estimate it and hope it works because it's a ball in your mind. You have to
Well, you have
actually
all these
work
fucking
it out.
But it doesn't have to
You have
be
all these
perfect the way
Boeing
you're
craft
implying.
being like made in.
It has to be perfect. It would have to be so perfect. It would have to be so perfect. The pilot could just assume to treat it as stationary. That's
So,
what
I
I
mean-
mean by perfect.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that would imply that any wind whatsoever would just like pull planes out of the sky.
What are you talking about? That's a straw man. I never said winds pull planes out of the sky.
I know you
I'm
didn't
saying that
say that.
What are you
winds pushing
that
the
having to
wait,
be
hold on,
perfect.
wait. You have to get this straight. Winds pushing the plane in all directions is one thing. That the ground that the pilot is going to have to land on, right, along with the winds, are two things, right?
Hmm.
Being in sync with the ground that's moving separately from the plane eastward is an extra thing on top of the winds pushing it in all directions. It's hard enough for a pilot to land on a stationary surface with winds blowing it everywhere, right? That's hard enough. But if the surface were moving, that'd be a whole other thing, because not only would it have to like deal with the winds and somehow line up with the Earth, it would have to make sure it's moving in perfect unison eastward with the Earth, right? And so much so that he doesn't even have to worry about it. And it would even be possible, even if he did worry about it. Even if he were consciously trying to do it, he would need jets on the side of the plane to keep the plane moving eastward tangentially in perfect unison with the Earth as he's landing in a perpendicular direction, or whatever angle it might be. Think of all the math think of the calculations. Like if he has to come in at an angle, if it's west, southwest, east, southeast, north, northeast, all these different angles that the runways are at, right? Now
Right,
he needs
again.
to also make sure that the plane is going backwards and sideways with the tangential velocity of the Earth. Even if he were aware of it, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Again,
Because the plane
what
is
you're
moving
suggest-
relative to the air and the ground at the same time, and they both go
That doesn't
at the same
answer.
speed.
That's not a mechanism. Just be calling
It's
it
the
relative
answer, but
doesn't
you don't.
answer,
But
dude.
you can't understand
What
it.
are you saying, that the pilot puts his faith in just relativity
Oh
not
my god.
He just says, "Oh,
Nah,
that the
bro.
air is going to make me in perfect sync, so I'm just going to
Nah,
put
bro.
my faith in the air."
What you're
Yep.
describing is the
This is your
problem would
captain
require.
speaking. This is your captain speaking. Now, I know that we need to be moving tangentially eastward with the Earth at 1,000 miles an hour where we're going through. Don't worry, but my training told me to treat it as stationary, and the air or the engines or the computer,
Okay,
something's
what
going to
happens?
make it work. I don't know what it is,
Nah.
but don't worry, folks. We're going to have a safe landing.
Yeah, it'll
You're so
magically work
annoying.
out no matter what runway you're landing on, no matter what longitude or
Yeah.
latitude you're at,
No matter
no matter
what
how
angle.
fast it's spinning. It's just gonna work out because we're gonna put
Yeah.
you know those wheels that are on the bottom
Bro,
of your
you don't
desk
have to
chairs.
scream.
The Dyson
So
wheels, Dyson ball wheels. We got Dyson ball
yeah,
wheels, and so if
yeah,
the
the
Earth is
wheels.
moving a little bit, we'll just use our Dyson ball
Yeah,
wheels,
No,
and we won't have
no,
to
there we
worry
you
about the
guys
go.
wheels
don't
breaking
understand
off.
momentum and inertia
No, if
and
the
nothing.
momentum is
No,
500,
dude.
bro.
So
The momentum
slow.
was 500. You need 1,000. We
Yeah,
What you
but
understand the
don't
500
understand is
miles
it
per
goes,
hour
they're not
comes from the
listening to
conserved
it
anybody.
momentum
goes
of where it took off from. Doesn't
500
have
miles an
It doesn't
hour.
I
have a thousand.
love
You are not
this
letting people
argument.
speak,
I love
and
it.
that's why you're stupid. That's why you stay stupid because
Bro,
you don't let
telling a
people speak.
stupid's gonna answer your question you couldn't answer.
So where
Because you
does all
don't.
the like
Because
That's
thermal
what
work
the
energy
CERN.
come
I
from?
answered the
That's what the
question
CERN. That's
3
what the
times back.
CERN freaking physicist said. The CERN physicist said he would fail you. That's what he told him. He said, I would fail you. He didn't have an answer for him. So you think you've got a better answer than a CERN physicist has? Because the CERN physicist didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
He has an
He's talking
explanation.
about,
He has an
a conversation
explanation.
I had.
Oops.
He's talking about a conversation I had with a CERN physicist, right? And all he could say is, if you took a test, I would fail you. I said, you don't even have the answer to give me for the test, so you failed as a T-shirt because you don't have an answer, and he didn't.
No, we have the
I'll put the
answers, but
recording in
you
the
don't
live
want to
stream.
learn
You
them.
can hear that
That's
he doesn't
your
have an
problem.
answer, and you'll see that you don't have an answer either. You don't have an answer.
I'm gonna make a
Yeah.
simile.
He
I'm
You
gonna
have
He
make
to
a
has an
just
simile.
explanation,
I'm going to
perspective.
make a
You have
The reason
comparison
there's
with
no
you.
pragmatism.
Let's see if this way you can
Listen,
understand it.
you have a deficit of
Let's
work
say
energy.
listen.
Hello.
Oh my God, no way. So wait, so you're saying the pilot, hold on, wait a minute. You guys saying the pilot actually stationary because it's stationary? No way. No, it must be moving. Wait, hold on, wait. If it's moving, should the pilot treat it as stationary then? Or if it's actually stationary, should he treat it as moving? I mean, what? You tell me.
Okay, I'm going to explain it to you in a more simpler way. Okay, let's say you have a limousine. Okay, and the limousine is moving 100 miles per hour on a road, and then on that limousine you have a drone
A what? A
inside of it.
limousine?
A
A
limousine,
what?
yeah.
Wait, what
A
are you
limo.
talking about? Wait, start over again. I didn't hear what you said.
A limo.
Say we have a
No,
what?
you can't
A
do the
limousine?
limousine.
Yeah.
The limousine's already on the Earth.
Yeah.
You're talking
And
about something that's in the air while the Earth is
bro,
moving.
I'm not
You gotta
speaking
Yeah,
be a
there's
to
two
you. I'm not
there's two
speaking.
reference
a
frames.
flying convertible.
You're talking about
And
one reference frame.
you gotta be
The
standing
limousine's
tall.
on the Earth. The
Bro,
limousine is on the Earth. It's
bro.
one reference frame.
You make
We have
this
two
10
reference
times
frames.
harder
Once
than it
something's in
has
the
to be.
air, it's two reference frames, not one. So you're saying that one reference frame and two reference frames aren't the
So
same or aren't the different? You're saying one
in
reference
the
frame is the
limousine,
same as two reference
you
frames.
have a
And
drone,
we're
and
stupid?
that drone,
Why are we
while the
stupid?
limousine
We
is
think there's two different
moving,
things there.
you move it, you fly it inside the limo backwards. So for someone that's looking from the outside, what does it look like? Like the drone
Listen,
is going
Michael,
slower than the
sit
limo,
down. Michael,
right?
sit down and listen to what New
And you,
Perspective is trying to tell you. Concentrate, focus. Okay, concéntrate en lo que te está
You're not
diciendo
even
New
understanding the
Perspective.
scenario. Just
Okay, so
explaining that things look like they're going backwards from outside of the Earth. That doesn't explain the mechanism that makes it go twice as fast sideways when it's landing in a place that's 1,000 miles an hour compared to 500.
you said
Just
it goes
explaining what
twice
you
as
know
fast.
about what the ball model says. It doesn't answer your question. We all know the theory that it's going to be going backwards, but we have to then name the actual physical mechanism. We're talking about physics, right? Now, you could have a kinematic concept, right? That it's automatically in sync. That's kinematics, right? That's where you can just subtract things and have rules that it doesn't matter. The pilot can just not worry about it. All those things that could be kinematically, that's just on paper. You can just say it works. But when you have dynamics, that's the real physics of moving bodies in relation to each other. When you apply the dynamics, your ball dies with this argument. And I'm sorry, but that is the truth.
Hey, New Perspective, quick question for you. So on a spinning ball, right, you would think you'd have to have a higher energy level at the equator where the rim velocity is the highest, as opposed to like up close to the poles, right?
No.
Higher
It
energy
would be
because
spinning.
it goes in a smaller circle, you mean?
Well, at the equator where it's got the most velocity, it's got the most work or energy being imparted to whatever's sitting on the ball that's spinning from the rotation of the ball. Right. So if you were to take a ball and put like a huge baseball bat on the equator and have it swinging around, and then imagine getting hit in the face with that baseball bat, and then do it with another baseball bat at 45 degrees north latitude.
It would hurt worse at the equator, is what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense because it's going faster, right? Yeah.
Right. So there's going to be more work energy required. So there's a thermodynamic energy deficit in airplanes that go from northern latitudes to southern latitudes, which these globers have not accounted for.
Exactly. That's another way of saying it. I just put it in simple terms. Everyone's been on a plane. They've all landed safely. And the pilot never has to worry about the rotation. And to say that he wouldn't have to is just insane. Because he would. You get ballers that say, that's it.
All right, Bob.
If you, is there a baller here that can answer this question? Who's a baller here? I have a
Several of us
question
have
for you.
already answered it. You're just not listening.
I know, you're the
They're
baller.
essentially
Okay.
saying that
Let me ask you this.
you can just
What would be the difference? What would be, that's to the baller, what would be the difference in training a pilot to fly over a stationary level Earth compared to training him how to fly over a spinning ball Earth? What would be the difference in training them? What would you do?
Nothing.
Yeah, there would be no
Nothing.
difference.
See, that's how stupid this is. They think there would be no difference, even though they say there's a Coriolis, and they realize that there's some kind of like adjustment that they believe in that that they'll have to make. Right? They realize there's an adjustment to be made, but then they say there'd be no difference. Right? They acknowledge the adjustment, but then say there's no difference. So that's a complete contradiction in common sense and logic.
Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's true.
Doesn't matter if you think I don't understand it because you.
I know you don't. I know you don't understand.
Okay, so then give us the answer.
can just
How does
consider
it accelerate? What's the mechanism that makes it accelerate twice as fast sideways? This guy says he understands it.
He asked the CERN physicist. He asked the CERN guy.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, he asked the CERN physicist the same question. He said, "What's the answer to the question?"
And he could
The
just
CERN
make it up.
physicist didn't have an answer.
And
But appeals to authority works both ways, everybody. Appeals to authority is a two-way street here.
Say you don't understand. Saying
Are you
someone
saying
doesn't understand
the
it doesn't
CERN physicist
answer.
is an idiot? The CERN physicist was an idiot? Is that what you're saying, Scott Mack?
Let's not appeal to authorities and credentials, guys.
Perspective was an idiot and didn't.
Don't appeal to authorities and credentials.
Oh, that's a good answer. That's a good answer to how it goes twice as fast sideways. Okay, so someone's an idiot if they ask the question. Is that what you're saying?
I've got a way better answer why you don't have to do it, because the Earth isn't moving. That's a
that's
better
probably a good
answer. Yeah, it's not that it just all works out and you happen to land on a runway going 500 miles an hour faster. It just all works out. No matter the scenario, the situation, the latitude, the longitude, it all works out perfectly, dude. That's you guys believing in your fairy tale nonsense once again.
I get this.
Yeah, if you think there's not something that we don't have to explain, it just works out. If you ask how it works out, you must be stupid to ask, even though we don't have an answer.
No, when we give you the answer, you reject it though, because you.
No, what was the answer? You give us the answer then. What was the answer?
The answer is that the answer is that you can just
give us the answer.
Wait a sec. Wait up. I know his answer. It is you can just consider as if the plane was traveling along the surface of the Earth.
Exactly.
That's true.
It's the same thing with a boat. With a boat, you don't have that problem. Why? Because you see that it sails on the water. The same thing with a plane. It's a boat that stays on the air. It's so simple. It's so simple.
Exactly. A boat going the same direction has to deal with the same forces, right? If you're going to pull into a dock, I mean, the water had to change its speed, right? Because the water at 45 degrees latitude is moving at a different rate than the water at the equator. but somehow that dock managed perfectly, that boat manages perfectly fine to pull into that new dock.
Yeah.
So wait, hold on, wait, on that point, right? So if there's a flowing, right, water, right,
Uh-huh.
the pilot totally has to employ a different procedure.
He's stuck.
Think about what you're saying before you say it. This is embarrassing.
Listen. If the water's completely calm, right, the pilot or the captain, right, would treat the water completely differently as to if it's flowing, right?
Okay.
So if it's a still water, then he just go straight across. But he would have to be trained to deal with. He would have to be trained differently to deal with flowing water as compared to calm water. Understand that?
But the water in the ocean at the equator is moving hundreds of miles an hour faster, than the water in the ocean at 45 degrees latitude. But somehow the boats that go from 45 degrees latitude manage just fine to pull into a dock at the equator where the water is moving hundreds of miles an hour faster.
Are you saying they don't have to worry about it? You're saying that the captain doesn't even have to worry about the flow of the water? He can just treat the water like it's perfectly stationary? He doesn't have to worry about the flow of the water?
Yes, he can.
He can just treat it like it's stationary water, like it's still water?
Yes.
He can just deploy the same exact tactics and just get there? Oh, you're saying the water doesn't move the boat at all? Okay, that's
you have to swim faster at the equator. New perspective.
Because it's not moving.
Yeah, the CERN physicist tried this one. He's like, look, it's a flowing river. It's a flowing river. How are you going to deal with a flowing river? Well, a flowing river is different than a lake that's not flowing, right? You would treat the lake and the flowing river the same if you were Scott Mackey.
Yeah, move away from the ocean. That's a good idea for you.
What I hear is that the surface of the Earth. Right, this is what I hear, right, guys? I hear that the surface of the Earth is not moving relative to the surface of the Earth. That's what I hear.
Yeah, of course, exactly. Thank you.
There you go. I'm happy. So are the people on the plane.
I've never seen anyone flounder
Therefore,
as hard as
no
that.
Coriolis. Therefore, no Earth spin. Therefore, no difference.
And the water is moving at 0 miles per hour in relation to the Earth, and the air is moving at 0 miles per hour in relation to the Earth when there's no wind or when there's no current, respectively.
What are you talking about? It's the thermodynamic work deficit.
The water's moving zero. The water's moving zero compared to the bank of the water's moving past.
When there's no current.
Yeah, well then he would treat it the same though. The captain doesn't have to worry about the current, right? If it's a current, the captain just treats it the same, right? Just train the captain that currents don't matter.
Yeah, but that's stupid.
But that's another.
Just like training a pilot to treat the Earth as stationary when it's actually moving would be stupid.
Sound confused,
Same thing.
Bro, you don't want to
Why
would you train? Why would you train a pilot to fly? Who's the guy on the side there that keeps talking about me being stupid? That's not Scott Mackey. Who's the guy that's saying am I confused? Who just
said that you sound confused.
You think I sound confused, but you don't have an answer to the question. Why do you think that I'm confused when I'm asking the question of
you're
how
still
the
saying there's no answer?
plane?
How are we still at the stage where you still think there's no answer?
How did the pilot or the plane move the plane to be in sync with a 1,000 mile an hour runway when it only had 100 miles per hour?
Didn't Michael Myers and Scott Mackey moments ago, after you had already said, wait, hold on, actually, in perspective, this is what's just happened.
What's the mechanism? You name it. Don't ask me if they named it. You name it.
Then you said no one's explained it.
You tell me.
Then I heard Michael Myers, and then Scott Mackey explained it, and now we're at a stage again where you're saying nobody's explained it. I just don't think you listen. I think you're confused.
Listen. Just attacking me doesn't make you right. You don't have an answer. They didn't have an answer.
Articulate.
You don't have an answer.
Articulate
about what I think. You
articulate what Scott Mackey just told you. Articulate it.
He didn't give an answer. He gave
Say it back to me. Say it back to me.
This guy.
Say it back to me. Perspective.
It just does. It just does.
To me, perspective. Say what Scott Mackey said.
Just does.
Give the answer. What's the mechanism that makes it go twice as fast sideways?
Say what Scott Mackey said back to me.
Oh, what Scott Mackey said. What Scott Mackey said was, I don't know, it doesn't matter. You can just
That's what he said? You're a liar then. You're a liar. You're confused or you're a liar.
He said you train the pilots. He said you train the pilots to treat
What
the Earth as
is that? What he
stationary, just
just
like
said?
you would.
Is that
He
what he
said you
just
train the
said?
pilots. There'd be no difference in training the pilots to
Yeah.
deal with the spinning
No,
Earth.
I'm
He said
talking
there'd
about
be no
what he
difference.
just said.
That was
Just
his
what he
answer.
just said. What he just said about the analogy between
You
water
tell me what he
and
just
air.
said. Don't worry about where it's
That
from. I
Because you don't
remember
know.
what he
Because you're not
said.
listening. Because you're indoctrinated. All you want to
You
hear
didn't
is
give
what
me
you're
the
told to
answer I
believe.
didn't hear. You give me the
You're not
answer I didn't
listening.
hear.
You're
Otherwise, you're just
confused. You're
tactic.
confused.
This is a tactic, dude. This is a tactic. Just to come in and say I didn't know, even though no one else knew.
I think the answer
Go
was
ahead,
just a
give the
trick.
answer.
Steamrolling is a tactic.
I think he's
He
confused.
doesn't have the answer. We're all quiet, listening for this guy that thinks he knows that somebody gave the answer. He doesn't know what their answer was because there is no answer.
You want me to tell you their answer after you've failed
Go
to
ahead. Yeah,
articulate
go
it
ahead.
5
Yeah, you
times?
give the answer.
You
Yeah,
said
go
they
ahead.
have
You
no
give the
answer. You said they have no answer, and you can't even
Oh,
tell
so
us
you
what
don't
they
know the
said.
answer that they gave. You don't know what the answer is they
I can
gave.
tell you. I can tell you. I've actually got
Go
it clipped.
ahead. Yeah, you go
I've got
ahead.
it clipped because it was embarrassing to watch you
What's
flounder
the
afterwards.
answer? What's the answer? What's the answer?
No, I asked you. You're going to have to tell me. You
Ah,
said
no,
that.
I'm not going to give it. No, you didn't listen, so you didn't know. So it's just a
Right, I'll give
tactic
you
to
a
come
clue.
in
I'll
and
give
say,
you a
I didn't
clue. It
know.
has something
It's
to
a tactic.
do.
It doesn't work
It
here,
has
bro.
something
Everyone
to
here
do.
knows.
I'll give you a clue.
Everyone has
I'll
no.
give you a clue
You
perspective.
talk
It has
about me
something
being
to
a clue,
do
dude.
with
There
the
was
speed
no
of
answer,
water
dude.
at the
Everyone
equator
else
and
here
45
knows.
degrees latitude. Now I've given you the
What?
clue. You
Yeah,
articulate the
there
rest.
was no answer, dude. You have to name the mechanism, and you know
Yeah,
there's
you
no
struggle.
answer.
You see, you
Bro,
You're
struggle.
making it seem
there's no
you're
mechanism.
just
What are you
you
on
don't
about?
deserve any attention, bro.
You are the only one claiming that there's a
Desperate,
mechanism
embarrassing.
and some inertia behind it. You are the one
What?
saying that and saying that we have to back it up. It doesn't make sense.
No, the pilot treats the Earth as stationary because it's stationary.
Okay,
You have to
what
name the
we
mechanism that
said,
makes it go twice as fast sideways.
okay,
Name the
okay,
mechanism that makes it go twice as fast sideways. Name the mechanism that makes it go twice as
I'm
fast
going to
sideways. Name
explain
the
it
mechanism that
again.
goes twice as fast sideways. Name the mechanism, Scott Mackey or whoever gave the answer. Name the mechanism right now. Name the
Okay,
mechanism that makes it
okay.
go twice as
I'm
fast
going to
sideways.
explain it to
Name the
you.
mechanism that makes it go twice as fast sideways.
If you
Jesus
let me
Name it.
talk,
Christ.
I will be pleased to explain it to you.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay?
the air.
Okay, thank you very much for letting me talk. Okay, so I'm gonna make the simile again. So to put the basis, so everyone is in the same place in this
Do
conversation.
it in the air, not with a boat, not with a car.
Because it's the same. It's the same. Water,
No,
air,
it's not.
it
If
moves
you
at
think
the
it's the
same
same,
speed.
you're already
Okay,
disqualified.
Do it
You're
with an
disqualified. Two
airplane.
reference
I
frames
mean,
Do
compared
it
to
with an
one.
don't
airplane.
want to listen.
Stationary. You're
You
treating it
told me
stationary, but you have a
I
belief that
try.
it's moving. That's the only difference. Both sides treat it stationary. One side believes that it's moving, the other side treats it stationary too. So you've got the same answer, but one has a belief that it's moving with it. Because if it really was moving, there would be a mechanism to account for a lot of things.
You're not going to mechanism. And then coming
Exactly.
in and saying, "Let me give you a clue because you didn't get the answer."
But
That's not an answer.
if everything is moving in the same system, then you can neglect it
Won't be
because
Coriolis then.
everything is moving
That's
at the same
kinematics,
speed.
dude. That's just kinematics.
Okay,
You're just saying there's
again,
no problem.
the mechanism you want me to answer is the ground moves in the equator at 1,000 miles per hour. The air is the still air that doesn't have any wind up above the equator also moves at 1,000 miles an hour. So the plane, when it wants to move at 500 miles an hour, it just has to make the thrust with the engines to go 500 miles an hour. No
Yeah, but the pilot's not taught to do
1,500.
that. The pilot's not taught to make the plane go an extra 500 miles an hour sideways.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
there's no
They
difference. So
just
So you're
they
basically,
saying
just are not.
the still air pushes the plane
Yeah,
sideways, an extra 500. The
no.
still air.
I'm saying
Okay.
the engines
What pushes the plane sideways?
suck the air that's stationary
Yeah.
in relation to them
Okay.
because
Stationary air
when
that the
they are
plane
going
sucks in. Yeah.
in the
What's it?
engines
Okay.
to spit it out
So
of the back.
yeah.
That's how it moves. It's like rowing,
Yeah,
but
and it
with
moves
air.
wherever it wants. It can go west, southwest, right? So now it's going against the spin towards the equator. So what's making it go sideways and backwards with the 1,000 miles an hour once it gets there?
Because the air related to the plane when the plane is on the ground is still. That's the
Right.
thing.
So you're saying the still air accelerates the plane sideways and backwards. The still air.
The engine does.
The
He's
engine makes the
basically
plane go
saying
backwards and sideways.
there's no separate reference frames, is what he's saying.
Yeah, but that's not what the globe model says. There's 2 reference frames. So
I mean, it's pretty
you
simple.
can go against your own
Even
model.
kids know this.
The model says there's 2 reference. Oh.
But you don't want to understand that. I think that's the problem because it's
No,
simple.
no, no.
With
You don't have the mechanism, bro.
You should
I'm
have
saying the
understood
still
it.
air, right? The boat has to treat the water differently, right? If
The
there's
still
a
air.
flow to the water, the captain treats the water differently than if it's just still water. That was my point, right? So the pilot has to account for the water going, right? He can't just treat it like it's a lake and there's no flow. He has to account for the flow, right? Just like the pilot would have to account for the spin.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because the spin.
Well, it doesn't because it's stationary. That's the only way that it could possibly be.
I'm gonna
That's
repeat
why,
it again.
yeah.
I'm going to
That's
repeat
the
it again.
simple answer. It's not moving. That's it.
It is, but
That's
everything
simple.
is moving, the ground and the air. So
okay,
the
so
plane
you think it's
from
moving
the, from the
1,000 miles
speed of
per
the
hour at
ground,
the
it also
equator,
moves at the speed of the air.
but up
Bro,
in
if
New
you're not
York
gonna
it's
let me talk,
moving what
I'm just gonna
700
mute you.
miles an
I swear,
hour.
I'm
So
gonna
you've
mute you.
got to get your
Bro,
you got to get your
you
increase
either
from
let me
somewhere.
talk or I mute you and I talk over you. You decide. Because I explained it already 4 times and you are saying the same shit.
Because it doesn't explain it, that's why.
So your answer was still air? That's the answer,
No,
still air?
Air is not still either.
you don't want to understand it. That's the problem. I'm figuring that's the problem. You don't want to understand it because
Yeah, but you've described it
it
as
doesn't
one
fit
reference frame.
your model. That's the thing. It doesn't fit your model, so you don't want to understand it.
Same answer as the CERN physicist. I'll fail you. It's not an answer. It's just a freaking it's a hand wave dismissal is what it is. Same thing.
It's like explaining colors to somebody that has been blind from birth. It doesn't make sense with you. I'm trying to explain it with the symbol of the boat, so it's simple.
Explain it to the
You
pilot
guys
that's going
say
to land with
it's
the
not the
people in it.
same because then you take currents into the equation. When the currents would be the equivalent to air, to flowing wind on a plane.
All you're saying is it just is. You haven't explained anything. You're just explaining that
Because
it just
you don't
is.
let me. Because you don't let me, and we've already explained it
Then
like
get
4
to it.
times.
Then get
Okay,
to
I'm
it.
gonna explain it. I'm gonna explain it for a 6th time. The ground moves 1,000 miles an hour. The still air above the ground in the equator moves at 1,000 miles an hour. So the plane has to take off to grab 500 miles an hour. It has to accelerate up until 500 miles an hour, not 1,500, because
So
it
you're
doesn't.
treating it
It doesn't have to take into consideration the movement of air, because the air is still the same as the ground.
You're just saying it just is. It just is. It just does, right?
It just is
does because of my claim.
No,
So effectively,
because it
practically
wouldn't make
stationary.
sense otherwise. Nothing else would make sense.
Not explaining the mechanism. Yeah, of course it wouldn't make sense.
And I tried to make
You
this.
You have to say that is the case in order for it to make sense, because New Perspective has pointed out that it doesn't make sense. That's the only thing you've got, is to just say it just is, and the air is doing exactly what I need it to so that it makes sense. You're not explaining in any way how it's demonstrable, anything
So
like
we can
that.
see the air doing what it's doing, though.
Yeah, you're just saying treat everything normal, but the ground's moving 1,000 miles an hour.
No, you are moving. When you sit down on a chair on your lawn, you in the equator, you are moving at 1,000 miles an hour, but you're not making any effort.
Holy shit.
So to move
But if you fly against 1,000
relative to
miles
the
an
ground, you
sound
have to
insane,
make an
man.
effort. Right?
Yeah, but if you fly against that, there's going to be a difference, isn't there? If you're standing on a conveyor belt and you're going against it, there's going to be a difference, isn't it?
I mean, if you are standing on the conveyor belt,
Sorry,
you
I used
don't
the drone instead.
you don't
If you
feel that
hover
you're
above
moving.
a conveyor belt If you hover above a conveyor in a drone, above a conveyor belt, you're going to be going quicker against it, wouldn't you?
So you don't experience the motion because you move with it.
Yeah.
So how do you know there's motion?
Why would you say there's no motion in the
So how do you know there's motion?
That's what I mean. You're just believing the motion and everything's the same.
Again, because if you take the point of reference, the system of reference, the point where you are looking from, yeah, everything is moving and you are not. But that doesn't make fucking sense. Because we are not the center of the universe, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Philosophical predispositions.
No, and that would mean that the stars that are 1 light year away, when they spin around the Earth, they would have to go.
Now we've got to accept the premise without question that they're light years away.
If you leave the Earth and go against rotation, there's going to be a difference.
The Earth isn't spinning. It's that simple.
So what he said is the way that he experiences reality doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it can't be that.
Yeah. You gotta imagine. You gotta imagine all these things. Imagine this is moving. Imagine this is this. Imagine it just all works out. Imagine that your senses aren't real. Imagine that it feels like it's still, but it's moving. Imagine that it looks like it's still, but it's moving.
So fucking smart.
Exactly. This is what happens when you start with a claim which is antithetical to your experience, and also which is one that you cannot prove.
He's got a philosophical disposition about it.
I just wanted to say, in his own model, all motion is relative.
Radar
For him to
detector,
make a
sorry.
claim that motion isn't relative just shows that he has an extreme bias. That the Earth
It's
is
not
not
bias.
the
It's
center.
the truth. What the fuck are you on about?
Okay,
This is
so
basic
is
physics.
is the Earth the center of the universe?
It depends. If you want it to be, it can be.
Oh, so it's philosophical, like the other guy said. If you want it to be, then it can be.
No,
It
it depends on what the reference system is. But we don't choose the reference system as the Earth because
Based on a philosophical.
many things get more complicated. That's
Just
the
pick and
thing.
choose. Yeah, which philosophy you like. Yeah, pick and choose.
Yeah, you have a religiosophy, and you got theory tales and mathematics to explain it.
Bro, if you want to be different, dye your hair or cut an arm, but don't go into flat Earth because it's fucking stupid. I'm so sorry.
Says the guy who.
Because when you
chooses-
see a boat, you say, yeah, that boat, I don't know where it's going, and I don't know how it moves, and the currents, and the plane, how it doesn't fall out of the sky. It doesn't make fucking sense.
Strawmanning is stupid. Why are you doing that if we're the stupid ones?
Just
I mean, you made
explain
a
where
good
you
point.
pick up.
Yeah, made-
His
you made a good
question was, where do you pick up 500 miles per hour
from the
from
engines of
nowhere?
the plane. Thank you very much.
So it's dude. So you're saying the plane's capable of doing
relative to the
1,000
ground.
miles
No.
per hour.
See,
That's what you're saying.
Let me speak. The plane moves 500 miles per hour relative to the ground. Okay.
And it's already
Relative
doing
to the
500 when it gets in the air, and then you're saying then it picks up 500 more. So it's going 1,000 in a plane that's not designed to do 1,000. That's ridiculous.
It's his drone in the limousine. So he's flying his drone around inside the limousine, and it's only doing 20 miles an hour. And then he slowly speeds it up to 100 miles an hour, and it's just cool, man. The drone's still flying around inside the limousine.
Of course.
Dude.
Fucking dumb. The Earth inside the limousine is also moving. So the drone. It's fucking
Take the roof of that limousine.
Get out of your house. Go see the sun.
It's
go
okay.
see the
Listen,
stars.
I called my brother a retard for freaking like a month for telling me the Earth was flat. So you just gotta breathe. I know it blows your mind, but when you finally figure it out, you'll be happy that you don't have to, figure out where planes pick up 500 miles per hour
Brother.
out of nowhere. They just land perfectly, or
I've
things just happen.
studied physics for 2 years for my bachelor's degree. I know far more for physics, and I've
About
tried
physics, I'm
because
sure
of
you do.
physics
I give
more
you
than
all
you have.
that.
More
Yep,
than you have.
I guarantee you know more about physics than
I
me.
know my physics, and I know my suffering
But
that
you're
I did in
stuck.
How do
physics,
you
and
not
I
know
know
that
my
all
history in
motion is
physics.
relative? How
You're
come you don't know that?
stuck.
What would physically happen if you went against a rotation of 1,000 miles an hour?
It depends of the radius of the system. It's that simple. Thank you very much.
No, ground moving underneath you 1,000 miles an hour, and you're
I
flying against
mean, the Earth